Hello and welcome to the show. Now, some of the best racing that we have ever done on any Forza game has come from the 100 horsepower racing. Cars with no more than 100 horsepower going racing around a track it's incredible because the cars are really rather easy to drive really rather quickly. I say really rather quickly. They all set very similar lap times. They're not the fastest of cars because they don't have a huge amount of power, but you can get them around a track without too much trouble, and the difference in lap times tends to be fairly small, so the racing is phenomenally close. The problem is, Forza doesn't really have a huge amount of cars with less than 100 horsepower, so the variety of vehicles running in it was never fantastic. I thought I'd have a go, though, with changing it up slightly, increase the power limit to 200 horsepower. Now that gives us a much wider variety of cars to choose from, while hopefully still keeping them all lovely and easy to drive and all well balanced. Our first race, we would go to the Road Atlanta short circuit. Now for this, I did ban the Lotus 11 because it's stupidly light. I did say also for the faster drivers not to use the Mini or the Fiat 595, so everybody opted not to. Our first race at the Road Atlanta short circuit, a track that with these kind of cars quite difficult to actually get overtakes done. I got a little bit of a bump out of turn 1, so you see my Tiger going for some exploring. The rest of the field, though, making it through the top of the hill relatively cleanly, despite on the most part being two. I'm not sure if anybody tried going 3 wide. Not a good idea to try going 3 wide, but everybody made it through. The BMW we're following at the moment was behind Tiger and a Lancia Fulvia that were battling side by side. The Fulvia tried to go around the outside, couldn't hold it, hasn't quite got the speed as they come onto the back straight. BMW's going to come past. A Corolla up ahead had a big oversteer moment, bounced across the grass, and he was about to be swallowed up by the onrushing field. Thing that immediately became apparent with this sort of racing: you can't afford to make mistakes. You can't afford to be slow off of any corner, as Datsun finds out, bouncing his way across the chicane, loses 4 places, I think, in just that moment. 4 places gone from getting it slightly wrong at the chicane. You could not afford to make mistakes with these kind of cars because everybody is so close. Everybody's so close together, but especially at the start of the race. But the field is remarkably close. Again, we saw that on the whole, cars were pretty well balanced. So things like this Alfa 75 were racing against an Opel Kadett. There's another Sunbeam Tiger in there as well. The balance worked as well as I'd hoped. I feared that we may have had, you may have had dominant cars and so on. But on the whole, this, it worked. It worked pretty damn well. The Alfa here finding its way around the outside. The Kadett is still looking, trying to see if he can keep the position in the end. Couldn't quite carry the speed up the hill. Now the Alfa's going after the Tiger up ahead. Behind the Kadett, now got to worry about a BMW. Pretty much wherever I pointed the camera in this in this race, there was stuff going on, and there was a lot of stuff going on throughout the field. The Tiger up ahead here got a big slide through this long sweeping corner, a problem that I think all of us with the Sunbeams were having. Mine did it as well a couple of times. That allowed the Alfa to get to the outside as they run into the braking zone. Perhaps not the ideal position, but he was quite a long way up alongside. The Tiger tries to hold it, but he's then going to be stuck out wide for the second part of the corner. The Alfa gets to the inside for the final turn, and the Tiger wisely thinks better of going around the outside. And you can see behind them as well, the battles were raging on for whatever position. Now, we did see a couple of modern cars. While on the most part this was classic vehicles, as you would expect, we did see a couple of vehicles, a couple of much more modern vehicles built for this racing, this Fiesta being one of them, although he was coming under increasing pressure from a Williams Clio that was looking for a way past. As I said at the start, overtaking could be a little more difficult around here because all of the cars had pretty much exactly the same horsepower. There were a couple that were relatively fast in a straight line, but on the most part everything was pretty even, so trying to get your car in a position to try and get an overtake was very difficult. There are no huge braking zones for this track. The one big braking zone is into the chicane, but these cars are never going massively fast anyway because they simply don't have the power. They're all in D class, so they're not massively fast vehicles, so you had to try and get overtakes done elsewhere, as the Williams was trying absolutely everything. But if you defended well, you made it really tough. It was very, very hard to try and get an overtake done, and still the Fiesta defends. The Clio is looking every which way, trying to find a way to get his car alongside, and of course the more they fight, the more cars that will bring themselves up into the battle. It's only taken a lap, and the Alpha 75 is now joining in the fun here. And as soon as you start getting 3-4-way battles, the Clio has a big dive because he knows he's in trouble from the Alpha. He doesn't get a move done, couldn't quite get the pass. The Fiesta survives. The Clio just about keeps it ahead of the Alpha for now. When you have these big groups, it's very hard being in the middle, trying to attack and defend all at the same time. At the front, a Lotus Elan was leading the way, and after the first couple of laps, the Elan had sort of 400-500 foot lead over the rest of the field. I'd feared that the Elan was simply going to bugger off and be massively overpowered. However, once we'd started to get the hang of our cars, we were catching it. Both me and the Clio were catching up to the Elan through the latter stages of the race. The Clio, though, trying his best to find a way past, but was having a really rather tough time of it, and I was making too many silly mistakes trying to push my car a little bit too hard, as you see me slide about in the background. Yeah, I had a very quick Tiger here, but I made a couple of silly mistakes that meant I could never quite get up to this battle. The Clio could never quite find a way past the Elan. And I also love how the Clio is not exactly a large car, but when you compare it next to a Lotus Elan, it looks ginormous as they come round this final corner. I mean, the Clio, having tried that overtake on that lap, you can see the amount of time he lost from trying. He dropped back. Try as he might, the Renault couldn't find a way past. He threw everything at the Elan. The Elan just had the acceleration, had just that little bit more top speed, and was just enough to fend off the Clio. He could defend through the chicanes, make the Clio, have to try and go the long way round here. The Clio's stuck on the outside, and again, he's going to be stuck on the outside for the final turn. He doesn't have the acceleration, though, to keep it there, which means that the Elan would take victory. The Clio in second, and my Sunbeam Tiger would come home in third. But yeah, I feared the Elan would bugger off, and that wasn't the case. We did reel him back in, and a very close race at the front. Fourth place was up for grabs on the final lap as well. It was another Tiger that was trying desperately to cling on to the fourth position under heavy pressure from an Alpha Spider. The Spider had been looking for a way past for a lap or so. Celica had caught up massively. They go 3 wide into the chicane, and while the Celica was a very fast car, couldn't quite stop it. And sure enough, he is out of the running for the fourth place. The Tiger manages to hold it around the outside of the chicane, can keep it there, just a little bit more acceleration than that Alpha Spider, and would hold on just about to his fourth place. The first race had been as much fun as I had hoped with these vehicles. A little bit faster than the 100 horsepower cars, and of course much better variety, but they were still very easy to drive, so you could still have a huge amount of close racing. Our second race would go to the Road America West alternate circuit as the cars all file through this. It is quite a nasty starting chicane for the cars to get through, but on the whole there's a couple of little bumps here and there, but nothing major through those early turns as we now run down this quite nice long straight. There were a couple of cars, the Celica being one of them, that was pretty fast. There was a Capri as well that was very fast in a straight line, but on the whole most of the cars were relatively evenly matched, so it was who dare brake latest as we were going 3 wide. Celica gets a little bit unlucky in being stuck out wide. My Tiger was very good under brakes. I found this car incredibly good. I could get up the inside of the Cadet there and make the position stick, which was useful around this track. At the front, well, last time out, a few of us had managed to kind of make a little bit of a breakaway early on. This was the battle for the lead and, well, positions back. It's, nobody was making a break in this particular race. A Sunbeam was leading away from an Elan. There's a Ferrari in there, Cadet. Ferrari's trying to find a way past. The Opel gets to the inside of this long sweeper. The Cadet's trying his best to hold it around the outside, but it is a seriously tough manoeuvre to keep your car all the way around the outside. And Cadet just doesn't quite have the grip to fend off the Ferrari. If you cut back on the exit, sometimes you can get an advantage, but the Opel is a little bit too far back, and for now, the Ferrari would hold on to the position. And while that was the front group, this was the group behind. It was absolutely crazy on these opening laps. So many cars fighting for the same piece of road. because the cars were, not massively fast and were, on the most part, very easy to drive, everybody was keeping it clean. Everybody was keeping the cars on the road. This Alfa 75 was being outdragged yet again by the Celica down this back straight, and then being caught by one of the Lotus Elan, the Elan going to the inside. But even down here, it's not a huge braking zone, so we're seeing quite a lot of cars managing to hold manoeuvres around the outside. Trying to go for big dives was very difficult in these cars because, for the most part, they didn't actually have big braking zones full stop. So yeah, the Elan just couldn't quite get the move done on the 75 at this point. The Celica, for all its straight line speed, did not quite have the corner speed at this stage of the race. They go 3 wide through this next corner. The Cadet kind of gets hung out to dry on the outside as everybody comes steaming past, but nobody could really kind of break the train of this battle, because now the Celica's fighting with the Alfa again. They're both slowing each other down, so the Elan's keeping up, the Cadet's keeping up, and this whole group remains close together. The Celica going for the outside pass, but can't quite hold it on the road. Wheel across the grass is going to slow him down, and just that attempt at an overtake is going to cost the Celica very nearly a position as they run through the next corner. So when you're in a group like this, you've really got to pick and choose your moments to go for overtakes, because it's very easy to lose places and drop down. And one thing that we were seeing is that the cars that had done very well in the previous race, this Clio was fighting for the lead in the last race. In this race, we're fighting for 13th place. They were having a really tough time trying to make it through the field because all of the cars were pretty evenly matched. If you were stuck in the pack and you were battling with one another, you were going to have trouble making it up the order. The Alfa Spider as well here, that are battling for this position, was incredibly fast at Road Atlanta, but they're fighting amongst themselves, they're fighting with other cars, and you just couldn't make your way through the pack necessarily that easily. The Alfa around the outside with the Clio running slightly on the grass, not a thing you want to be doing. The Spider having good speed around that particular corner. And again, this race, whichever sort of position I looked at, there was, on the most part, something going on somewhere. It was, again, fantastic fun. I had probably the best sunbeam of all. There's a few of us that ran these. I was the only one that's particularly happy with my car. I really liked my vehicle. I was currently clinging on to 5th place in this group. The Capri had breezed past me. I'd feared that having got past me, it would vanish off up the road, but it was struggling with the turns, and the real strength of my car was its fantastic brakes. I don't know why particularly my car had such good brakes, or I was being braver with it, but I could brake really very, very late through a few of these corners, far later than the cars ahead of me. The problem was we were all slowing one another down. The Fiesta was having to defend from the Capri. The Capri couldn't make the most of its straight line speed because it was constantly kind of having to battle and fight with the Fiesta. I couldn't make the most of my cornering because I had cars ahead of me, and behind there was an Alfa 75 that was catching up through all of it. It was just a frantic battle over 3rd place. I tried to get a move on the Capri, but I couldn't quite do it. And again, the Capri out-accelerates me down here, but I can outbrake him into the hairpin, get my Tiger to the inside, but I'm going to be forced the long way around the next corner. I don't think the Capri quite expected me to go for it, though. As we run around this turn, I said how difficult this is to do. It is very rare that anybody manages to pull it off. I was quite surprised when I managed to keep the Tiger all the way around the outside of the Capri as we run down towards turn 1. That will put me on the inside for this first corner. There's a little bit of a bump between our two cars. I get the 4th place. Problem is, as I leave that chicane section, well, there comes the Capri's speed once more down this back straight, and the more we fight, we give the Fiesta a little bit of a break. We give the 75 a chance to catch up and join in the battle. It's was a big fight over this 3rd place. The Capri up the inside. I'm not keen on giving this place up, though. I know the grip I have in the Tiger. I again tried to hold it on the outside. I just couldn't quite deal with the acceleration, and this went on for a couple of laps between us lot. For quite a number of laps, we were fighting like this over 3rd place. Was an awful lot of fun. And at the front, a very similar story was going on, while a little bit further down the road from our gigantic battle for 3rd. This was the fight for the lead between a Ferrari 500 and the Lotus Elan. Was again going quickly, but was struggling to really do very much about the Ferrari, and they stayed like this for pretty much the entire race. These two battling this closely. The Ferrari defending a little bit through the final corner. The Elan just not really quite having anywhere to go as they run down towards toe, and you can see the size of the gap as well that they got to us while we were busy having our own little battle in the background. Lap times were relatively similar between all of the vehicles, but yeah, being stuck in a tense battle as we were losing ground to these leaders. The Elan got a very, very good run off of the first corner, and that straight line speed, that acceleration from the tiny little Lotus was very, very useful as he would get his lead back as they run down the back straight. The Ferrari tries to go around the outside but runs a little bit wide. However, his lead would only last for so long. And again, we were looking further back through the field. I think this was the fight for 15th place or something in this race, and it was still some seriously intense racing. And this is when you know you've got a good rule set, when you've got a good event, when the cars are fighting over 15th place, fighting over 18th place, whatever position it may be. This vigorously, you know you've got a good rule set, and the cars were working very, very well. This BMW trying to find a way past the Alfa, the 2002 Turbo going for the outside. Alfa managing to just about hold on, running the BMW a little bit wide, and there's still 2 or 3 cars behind, ready to pick up the pieces, ready to try and find a way past as the BMW gets himself in trouble, puts a wheel on the grass, runs wide, and immediately the Opel Kadett is going to pounce. And there's a Chevrolet Monte Carlo in there as well, ready for good measure. Kadett couldn't quite get the move done, but yeah, you really had to be. You couldn't afford to make mistakes. You really had to be on it the whole time. Otherwise, yeah, you would easily lose a couple of positions at the front. And after a little mistake from the Elan, the Ferrari would retake the lead and would stay there. The Lotus, though, remained very close. As I said, this was pretty much how these guys' races went. It was yeah, very, very much nose to tail between them. The Elan not quite able to find a way back past, though, as they go around the final corner. Unfortunately, the big battle, the third, would spread out a little bit. I had a slight bump with the Fiesta that dropped us back, which meant the Capri would take third place from the Alfa 75 in fourth. Our third and final race with these cars would go to the Hockenheim Short Circuit, a track that has produced many a good race, and seeing as these cars were being an awful lot of fun, we had hoped that it would continue as we go through. Always a scary first corner to go through. Quite a few cars, me included, taking the wider line off and just avoid collisions with the cars getting a little bit more understeer or bouncing their vehicles across the curb. Even these cars, it was surprisingly easy to have vehicles launched up into the air. The Corolla getting himself in a little bit of trouble across the grass, trying to find a place to rejoin the track safely as we run down this back straight for the first time. Again, the Elans were really quite fortunate. Certainly the blue Elan was very fortunate with some kind grid spots in these races, and once again he found himself towards the front but was immediately coming under pressure from an Alfa Spider. The Alfa Spider seemed to be pretty solid cars. It's a pretty solid choice of cars for this one. It was a Sunbeam Tiger that was leading the way for now. He was coming under pressure from an Elan and a 75 as they go 3 wide almost through these final corners. The Spider we're following is right in there. It's a huge group of cars fighting for the lead as they're bouncing their way across the curves. The 75's got himself to the lead as they run around that final turn. They were very, very frantic opening laps in these races. The Sunbeam dropping back a little bit under pressure from the Elan. This Spider was having a look again up the inside and does of an Elan. Celica is on the inside of a Spider. It was all going on. It was all very much going on. The Elan manages to fight back against the Spider here as we run through the next corner. And again, it was a similar story in this race as we had at Road America. Fast cars could get stuck in these huge groups of vehicles that were battling for position, and just trying to get overtakes and trying to make your way through the pack was so very difficult, because yeah, you could get past one car, but if you get a little compromise trying to pass the car ahead of that, you can get overtaken again. And this was the issue that the Clio here was finding as he was trying to get through the field. He managed to get past. The Kadett was now trying to line up the Fiesta, and the Celica up ahead. Everyone was going 2 and 3 wide through these next corners. The Clio was trying, but there's just nowhere to go. There's nowhere to put your car. You can't make the most of your speed when there's so many vehicles up ahead of you. And then we're again down this back straight, and it's solid 2x2 down here between all of this group of cars that are fighting for position. The Scirocco got us slightly into the side of, I think it's another Kadett at the front. Yeah, a little bit into the side of the Kadett, puts it sideways. Everybody sort of checks up through here, all trying to avoid one another. When you've got so many cars racing closely, trying to make that progress and trying not to get caught out and lose positions was quite difficult. The Clio was looking for ways past the Fiesta and just runs a little bit wide, leaves enough of a gap for the Cadet to stick his nose up, and the Cadet gets the place back. So yeah, many position changes were going on. The Celica was continuing to try and fight his way through the order. Again, another very fast car, but was struggling to make an impression on the field as the 75 was battling with a Tiger through the second to last corner. The Sunbeam in a little bit of trouble running out wide, and again we see that one little mistake, or that one slightly running wide moment, or that one slight bump can easily cost you a couple of positions. The Tiger drops down and the Celica makes the most of it to get up the inside and past the 75 before they ever get towards the first corner. You can see the size of the Trader cars going around here. It was an impressive train of vehicles running around this track. There was a little bit of a gap between this group and the other group further up. You can see further up it got a little bit more spread out in this race, but yeah, still very good fun at the front. And it was an Alfa 75 that was leading the way in this one, chased down by two Elans and the Alfa Spiders. Alphas were having a good day. None of them were broken down, and they were all running relatively competitively. The thing is, the Elans were very fast cars, and with a good run out of that second turn, the 75 a little bit too wide, the Elan could simply drive past him in a straight line, and the 75 is immediately under threat from the Spider. The Spider throws his car up the inside. The 75 is forced to go the long way round and is still holding it around the outside of two corners. If you can, though, it will put you on the inside for the hairpin, which is where you want to be. And while these guys have a four-way battle for the lead, that's helping sort of fifth place massively to try and catch up to this this giant group of squabbling cars. And the 75 just about managed to hold on to his position for now, almost leaves the door open through that second to last corner. I love the second to last corner as an overtaking spot. If you can get it right, a big dive up the inside, you can catch people out and get overtakes there. The 75 though was just far enough ahead. The Spider got a big slide out of that final turn and would drop back at this stage of the race. Had a look around, not much else was going on towards the end of this. The field did spread out a little bit more in the closing stages. The Spider would make good progress though, get himself back up into second place, and as they came on to the final lap, the Spider was trying his best to find a way past the Lotus to take a victory as they run through the second corner. The problem they were having is that as they were battling, as they were fighting for position and taking slightly different lines, they were really slowing one another down, which meant that despite having a fairly safe margin over the 75 at the start of this lap, by now, they didn't. The 75 was right there behind them as they run through this next corner, and still the Spider looks to try and find a place to get past. The Elan is still trying to go defensive, and as they both try to carry as much speed as they can, they both run wide. They're both in a bit of trouble, and the 75 is going to get the pair of them down towards the hairpin. The Spider goes for the cutback. The Elan doesn't quite have the grip to keep it alongside. The Elan's on two wheels across the curb. The 75 has been pretty much inherited the lead as the two ahead. Thought it's a great manoeuvre, great opportunistic manoeuvre to get past the pair of them down into the hairpin. The Elan's in more trouble around the final corner as another Spider's joined in the fun on this final lap. It would be the 75 from the blue Spider. The Elan would just about hold on to third, with the green car claiming fourth. Phenomenal final lap. First and second slowed each other down so much battling that they gifted the victory to third place in that one. I had a little bit more of an unfortunate race. My Tiger was actually a really good car. I really liked it, unlike everybody else who had a Tiger. I got involved in a little bit of a shunt early on and dropped through the field. But yeah, I thought the Sunbeam Tiger was a great car, despite the fact that it comes with 200 horsepower standards. I couldn't actually do anything to the engine. Yeah, I really liked my Tigers. The Elans were very fast, but they weren't unstoppable, certainly. There were other very competitive cars in the lobby. And yeah, the racing was as phenomenal as we had hoped. Lots and lots of close action, lots of overtaking, and lots of huge group battles. Probably some of the most fun racing I've had on Forza for a while. These cars, they were really rather cool, and I highly recommend that you have a go with this sort of racing yourself. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.